Ronnie. Maureen or Ronnie? Oh. Yeah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Giving all honor and glory to the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. To him all praises are due forever. Thanking him for my life, the life of you all here today at D.C.B. I bid you all to my forefathers, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Lakem.
Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Lakem.
How y'all feeling today?
Okay.
Hallelujah. Dealing with a little pain, but I'll be all right. God's good. So we'll be doing Proverbs chapter 6 and 7. But what I'll be doing today is 7 first, because chapter 6 will lead into some of the workshop discussion I want to have with you today. Got a reader? Ready? Torah being my co-defendant today, brother. Thank you. Let's go.
We're in the book of Proverbs, starting at chapter 7. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
My son, keep my words and lay my commandments with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my teaching as the apple of thine eye. Bind them upon thy fingers, write them upon the table of thy heart. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, that they may keep thee from the strange woman, from the alien woman that maketh smooth her words.
So first, a lot of Psalms, a lot of Proverbs start like this. It starts with the person that writes the Proverbs trying to make sure that the person that is being told the proverb, the importance of the proverb. Torah. This is the one I was? This is better, okay. The importance of the proverb. Because, as you know, a lot of us who sit in Shabbat services and stuff goes over our heads. Right. We listen, but we don't pay attention. So oftentimes, you have to have that overall conversation. Maybe that's a parasha, you're going through a siddur, da-da-da-da, and some people are paying attention and some people are not. But then you have to have those detailed conversations where, listen, this is something you really need to take heed to because this pertains to you. So it talks again like it talked in 5 about the alien woman that maketh smooth her words. I just want y'all to know this can mean anybody. It doesn't particularly mean woman. But it's talking about those people out there who set up traps, who are out there and they want to embrace you, but they don't have any good intentions for you. Tamshi.
Verse 6. For at the window of my house I looked forth through my lattice, and I beheld among the thoughtless ones, I discerned among the youths, a young man void of understanding, passing through the street near her corner. And he went the way of her house in the twilight, in the evening of the day, and the blackness of the night, and the darkness. And, behold, there met him a woman, in the attire of a harlot, and willy of heart.
Now, as the person that's reading saying the proverb, he says, for at the window of my house, I looked forth through my lattice, and I beheld amongst the thoughtless ones, I discerned amongst the youth, a young man, void of understanding, passing through the streets near her corner, and he went the way of her. Now, the way of her house. Now, the her is the character. The her is the evil character, the alien woman, the harlot. But the focus is on the fact that he's looking at a young person. Now, it could be a man or woman. Let's say if it's a man or woman. But they're going like a lamb to the slaughter because they're trying to satisfy what they think is a need of the flesh. And You know, in this day and time, we live in a hypersex society. You know, they put pornography everywhere. It's in Disney movies. It's in comic books. It's in everywhere. And they're trying to impose this on our people. And as the person that's writing it is stating, he said, I beheld amongst the thoughtless ones, because there's times that, you know, we as young people, we get into our urges, and our urges become more important than our intelligence. Right. And he's saying, you know, look at this fool here. This fool is going and trying to do something he don't know what he's getting into, and a lot of the end result is that a lot of people think that they're going to satisfy the flesh, but it's a much bigger picture than that. They really don't know what they're getting themselves into. Tumshi.
Verse 11. She is riotous and rebellious. Her feet abide not in her house.
She is riotous. She is rebellious. Her feet abide not in her house. You think that this is something that you can have a relationship with? You assume that I'm just going to have my fun and go about my business without consequence. Right. Tumshi.
Now she is in the streets, now in the broad places, and lieth in wait at every corner.
That means she's waiting for somebody. You're not special. Tumshi.
So she caught him and kissed him, and with the impudent face she said unto him, Sacrifices of peace offerings were due from me. This day I have paid my vows. Therefore came I forth to meet thee, to seek thy face, and I have found thee. I have decked my couch with coverlets, with striped cloths of the yarn of Egypt. I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves with loves. For my husband is not at home. He is gone a long journey. He hath taken the bag of money with him. He will come home at the full moon.
Now, there's a part in our history where our forefather was tempted the same way.
Yes, sir.
So Joseph, who was in charge of his master's house, was being pursued by his master's wife on a few occasions. And Joseph's integrity as a man is what saved him. It's not because, you know, she didn't try, but his integrity as a man that feared God is what saved him. Now I want to tell you something. I want to ask you something, actually. If I steal and I get caught, am I a thief? If I steal and I get caught, is what I did still wrong? If I steal and I don't get caught and nobody knows what I did, is it still wrong? So integrity teaches you that it has no bearing on the populace or who's around you or who sees it, or even if you get caught regarding the evil that you do before God. Because God sees it. So morals don't got nothing to do with whether it's acceptable with people or not. And a lot of us think that our morals are based on the people we're around at the time. Or, oh yeah, you know, I know I did this thing that was wrong, but enough people around me don't care. Right. Or nobody scolded me for it, so I could sleep easy. Right. Israel, that doesn't matter. See, that's what having a relationship with God, you know, maybe Joseph could have did something and got away with it and his life could have been good. Right? But no, he knows that there's no way that I can do this. And he said, what? Sin against God. It ain't about you. It's not even about my master. It's about my relationship with God. Tumshi.
Verse 21. With her much fair speech, she causes him to yield.
Because she's giving him the G. She's talking to him like, no. And you know, he's a young guy, as it's described. And, you know, she's getting his ego. She's flattering his ego. She's doing the things she needs to do. But with much fair speech, she causes him to break down because maybe he has these second thoughts. But when you entertain wickedness too long, it gets the best of you. That's why it's not just about, your power of resistance. Maybe you shouldn't be around certain things in the first place.
Right.
Maybe you shouldn't be around certain people in the first place, because why put yourself through that drama? Why put yourself through that moral equivocation where you have to go back and forth on what you know is right and, what you want to do to satisfy your pleasure at the time? Tumsheet.
With the blandishment of her lips she enticeth him away. He goeth forth after her straightway, as an ox that goeth to the slaughter, or as one in fetters to the correction of the fool, till an arrow strike through his liver, as a bird hasteneth to the snare, and knoweth not that it is at the course of his life.
Tumsheet.
Now therefore, O ye children, hearken unto me, and attend unto the words of my mouth. Let not thy heart decline to her ways, go not astray in her paths. For she hath cast down many wounded, yea, a mighty host are all her slain. Her house is in the way to the netherworld, going down to the chambers of death.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So be warned and make sure that you focus your energy on righteousness, because oftentimes, you can get all the pleasures that you want out of life if you do the right thing. God is looking out for all of us all the time.
Right.
As long as we do what's pleasing and right in his eyesight.
Right.
Get you a family. Get a wife. Get a husband. Have some kids. Enjoy your life. All of these externals, all they're going to do is hurt you. The side piece. I want to have fun. I want to go out, and all of that stuff is going to hurt you. Because one day you want to have all of those good things in life, but you don't marred yourself with all of the things you decided to do when you were young. That's why make the right decisions early on. That's what your parents always try to teach you. Because everything time you cannot get back.
Right.
I look at the sisters that be going up the stairs, and they be carrying the kid up the stairs with the stroller. This is the world of independence now. The chivalry's dead.
Right.
So when you see people walking all over you and you struggling and all, I just think about the fact that when somebody told you to not do it, not be out there playing, and you decided to do it, and then the person that told you if you're going to do it, get protection and all that good stuff, and so you had all these layers of advice in your life that you chose not to take heed to. And then you got the guy that's being punched in the face, disrespected, taking a child support court for all of these stuff because he thought with his loins and not his head, not his brains. So when they tell you these things, it's not to suppress you. It's not to suppress your sexuality. It's to teach you how to be responsible. Because you have one life. And don't let anybody with sweet talk and a good word, a nice smell, come and destroy that. Those brothers and sisters, these are some slick, willy, light-skinned Ricks, pretty Rickies. They out here. And they have the right words. They never worked a day in their life. They don't have to because they pretty Ricky. They know how to get theirs off. They know pimping. That's what they do. It's just they use what they do to use. And that gets women that do the same thing. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Let's go to 6 and start 6. Now, I do want everybody to be reminded that the last time we came and did the workshop, the congregation, right, that was here, they agreed on these positive interactive behaviors. Attention was said, active listening was said, body language was said, respect was said, care was said, cooperation was said, kindness was said, sincerity was said, and patience was said. On the negative, The negative behaviors we agreed were that we didn't want to practice were negative attitudes, disrespect of one another, aggression and violence, immaturity, poor and offensive hygiene, offensive yelling and screaming, and cursing at each other. Cool. Have we been keeping up the task with this? No, I'm asking. I didn't see anybody curse at each other lately. We've been good. We've been behaving ourselves. We've been trying. But the more we reiterate these things, the more you can put it into practice, if you know it exists. So 6 is very critical. Ironically, it became critical. I didn't choose the chapter, but it fit essentially into the next part of what I wanted to discuss as far as our behavior is concerned. So let's start with 6, verse 1. Hallelujah.
My son, if thou art become surety for thy neighbor, if thou hast struck thy hands for a stranger, thou art snared by the words of thy mouth, thou art caught by the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself. Seeing thou art come into the hand of thy neighbor, go, humble thyself, and urge thy neighbor. Give not sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids. Deliver thyself as a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler.
Now, it's kind of discussing 2 things. Number 1, I'm just going to speak of myself. I believe in friendship. I believe in the concept of friendship, but I know that friendship is a serious thing. I know that there's a lot of people who form superficial relationships and they call them friendships. It's not the same thing. Friendship takes time. It takes a level of trust. It's something you build on, right? I met you for 6 months because we were at some affair or whatever the case. I really don't know you. I don't know your moral standards. So all of a sudden people are becoming besties because standards of behavior and knowing that these are the things that you're obligated to be a part before, but that you're obligated to do and practice before you become a part of us, right? Just for the sake of, oh, we are Israel. Israel don't have the same standards, I'm sorry. We're trying to get to that point, but we don't have the same standards because there's some things that people feel that they can do that are totally out of Torah, but they find acceptable because enough people think it's okay. As I said before, there's a difference. It's a difference between what's right and what's popular. What's popular is what's popular. A lot of people may accept things, but it may not be Torah. You may be cool with somebody that be doing stuff that's obscure, whatever, but that's not me. I'm not into the light skin, dark skin. I'm not into the gender. I'm not into that because I look at people for who they are and what they are. That's what we should try to do. Am I perfect? No, not at all. But you should try to make sure that you see the value in the individual, not the facade. Because we all come with facades. And that's not who we actually are. Who we actually are is, okay, who is he when he's mad? Is he still righteous? Who he is when he's in a desperate situation. Because some of us don't know that we thieves until we got to steal. That's when you know you're not a thief. I'm in a desperate situation. I would rather go out and beg than to steal. Some people ain't like that. You know you're right. I'm hungry and I'm going to eat this thing that's not clean, right? Because I got to eat something. But this is part of the entire, this is why our men, our forefathers got blessed. That's why Daniel got blessed because they said, listen. And it wasn't that the meat that they had was unclean, but it may have been offered to a false god before they sat down and ate the table. He was like, nah. Because they knew what we ate, but they were like, here, take this, eat this. Like, nah, we ain't eating that. And he said, listen, I challenge you. Bobby Flay, I challenge you. Give me beans, pottage. Give this to us in water for some weeks. And I bet you we look better than the people that you have is eating all of that good stuff. And they came out and they wound up looking better than the people that was eating all that good stuff. So I say that to say all of this. Friendship is a very good thing. But be sure of the people that you call yourself vouching for. Be sure of the people that you call yourself brother, sister, and friend. Because some of us, I know we're American, and Americans, we learn superficiality as the basis of our life. You know, this is a Cosmo Vogue society. You know, Puffy came inside here, regardless of what stuff we know about him, everybody be friends with Puffy. That's us. Right. You forget all the stuff you heard about Puffy, but he be your friend. Just because you took a picture with him. But that's us. Should that change? Of course, but it's gonna take time. Also, is leaning towards you vouching for this friend and having your hand out. You know, there's things where you say, well, you know, I don't know if any of y'all in here remember Crush Groove. No, my generation remember Crush Groove. Russell Simmons / Blair Underwood needed to get some money to get the rest of these records printed up. And he went to borrow the money from BJ. That was his name. The fur guy. And the man told him, yo, what are you doing talking to that dude? I heard some bad stuff about, nah, that's all right. And you go borrow the money from the guy that everybody warned you about. So then when it hits the fan, BJ is sending full force to beat him up in the hallway. La-da-da-da-da, you know how the story goes. Watch who you take from. And I'm going to tell you something as men and women. Never, ever get used to having your hand out for any reason.
That's right.
I'm not saying that we can't be brothers and sisters when times are hard and we can't give, whatever the case may be, but don't get accustomed to doing this. Because there are people that when they give, they ain't giving with a full heart. They giving, and even if they say, oh, you don't owe me nothing back, we friends. They will bring that back up in your face and have you beholden to them for some reason or another. Feel like that's the reason why they can talk about you, or for whatever reason. Even times where you go through this and you're in a relationship with somebody, and they're emotionally taxing you because of what you give. Right. When your relationship is supposed to be collaborative. Right. But we don't think right. Continue.
Verse 6. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways and be wise, which having no chief, overseer, or ruler, provideth her bread in the summer, and gathereth her food in the harvest. How long wilt thou love sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as a runner, and thy want as an armed man.
Time sheet.
A base person, a man of iniquity, is he that walketh with a froward mouth, that winketh with his eyes, that scrapeth with his feet.
Slicker, let me go back to 6, between 6 and 11. So it talks about the sluggard. And how it correlates is that, you know, you have your hand out, you have to learn how to do for yourself. It says, consider her ways and being wise, which having no chief, meaning no boss. He don't punch a 9 to 5 like that, but he gets up to do his job or her job on a daily basis. No overseer or ruler. There's nobody telling you that you late. There's nobody whipping you in your back, but you do the same level, they do the same level of hard work. Provideth her bread in the summer and gathereth her food in the harvest. So sometimes we cooperate, we have everything that we want, but we force people in our nation to be solo artists and try to find ways for themselves. But it's never good to not have a desire to go and do something for yourself. You know, I talk to a lot of young people, and they say, you know, yo, I want a job, I want to do anything. I say, yeah, I got a job for you. I want you to clean up the manure and the zoat in the bathroom 7 days a week. Right? They tone change. Right. You don't want to do anything. Right? You want to do something. But desperation causes people to say things like that. I'll do anything. I'll do that. Da, 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 da. So I said, no, you don't want to do anything. I said, do you have a focus? Do you have a career path that you want to go on? And the answer is a lot of them don't. You know, that conversation that some of us had when we were young, when people ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, school is not having that conversation with them anymore. So therefore, they don't have a goal, and with goals comes plans. You know, you can see a goal and you can see yourselves in those goals. Most of the institutions that we put our children in, they are actually created to put them in jail in one way, shape, or form. So the correlation is they project the amount of jails and forecast the amount of jails they need to build in the future by the test scores, especially of males, but the test scores of our children in the 3rd and the 4th grade. Because they know that if they don't do well at this stage in life, that they will be disinterested in school. And they won't pursue it any further. They may go, right? But there's a difference between being there and being present. And mentally, they will start to drop out. So how do we get to a point where we take our future back out of the hands of this society? Because I believe that our children have the ability to do anything they want to do. So the difference between us and our white counterparts is options, opportunities, not intelligence. You have the best of everything to produce your greatness. I expect you to be great. So I don't, when y'all are criminals and stuff, I'm like, I don't even know what's wrong with y'all, because y'all must be, y'all want to do that. But when we have schools where, because of poverty, not because of anything else but poverty, they actually put the worst teachers in our schools. They put low-performing teachers in these schools and not the best schools. They take away programs, like I spoke the other day at Shalom. You know, when you take away a program like, you know, sports programs, but when you take away a program like music, do you know what music does for black people? They say that black people are naturally inclined to music anyway. I could understand that. When you see, I'm not talking about even Israelite drums, you see African drums. They're offbeat and on beat at the same time. And when the sisters be dancing to the music, you know, sisters be, and they got a little troop thing going on, and you just see a whole spirit in what they're doing. Right? And they've been doing it, but nobody even has to teach them that. They just learn, they see it, and they do it. So all of us who are just musically inclined naturally, they say that what music does, especially to a developing mind, it teaches you hand-eye coordination. It teaches you how to use different parts of your brain at the same time. When I had to do music class myself, I had to play the trumpet. You're counting, you're playing, you're tapping your feet at the same time, and you're looking at your conductor to expect when to make the change. So you're doing all of this stuff at the same time, and then you're just one section doing that. You have to play with the other section. So if I'm brass, and that's woodwinds, and that's percussion, we all got to be in sync with what we're doing. So it's teaching you that level of collaboration, and then you know what's so funny? As you're doing it, you can sound when one person is off. That's how in sync you are, is that when somebody's off by a note at a particular point, you know it's off. So when those things don't come in our community, and we don't get a chance to develop the way we need to develop as a people, we're being shorted. So we want to be able to do what we got to do for ourselves, because nobody's going to look out for us but us. Nobody's going to invest in us the way we can invest in ourselves, because they don't care about us. I'm going to tell you how much they don't care about us. You think racism in America is bad? It's worse than what you think. There's a documentary on Netflix. I forgot the name of it, but it's about two civil rights activists, well, one particular civil rights activist that went against the guy who came out with the movie Birth of a Nation when it came out. If you know Birth of a Nation, the original movie was adapted from a book called The Klansman. And this was the first cinematic blockbuster in America. And the guy was trying to stop it from coming out because he knew it was a propaganda that was already going to inflame a racist society. So what happened was the movie came out, more people joined the Klan after they saw that movie. At that time, after that movie came out, the Klan went from a couple of thousand to 2 million people. So what's so interesting about what they were saying in the movie is that white America tasted, and they call it this racial porn, and they got addicted to it. So everything that they did is really trying to get us back to the state of slavery that existed in the past. Every move they make. And they're not going to stop. So I have no time for Republican and Democrat. I have no time for liberal and all of that stuff. And I'm just trying to fight for my freedom right now. Because I live in a society that they're addicted to oppression. Addicted to it. But let's continue on.
Verse 12. A base person, a man of iniquity, is he that walketh with a froward mouth, that winketh with his eyes, that scrapeth with his feet, that pointeth with his fingers. Frowardness is in his heart. He deviseth evil continually. He soweth discord.
Read 14 over.
Frowardness is in his heart. He deviseth evil continually. He soweth discord.
I just want you to read that part again one more time because I want it to really resonate in the people when they read it.
Frowardness is in his heart. He deviseth evil continually. He soweth discord.
Continue.
Therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. On a sudden shall he be broken, and that without remedy. There are 6 things which Jehovah hateth, yea, 7 which are an abomination unto him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood.
I'm going to stop there. Somebody tell me what haughty eyes are. Shine light, girl. What's haughty eyes though? What's haughty eyes though? Haughty is pride, right? And haughty eyes, that term really means, or a person that has a haughty eye, are people who look down on other people with the belief that they're better than them, right? How do you spell tongue? T-O-U-N-G-E.
T-O-N-G.
Tongue, it's tongue.
Are you serious?
That's tongue, right?
T-O-N-G-U-E.
See, y'all looking at me, and y'all saying it 3 different ways.
T-O-N-G-U-E.
T-O-N-G-U-E.
We the blind leading the blind. The T-U-R.
T-O-N-G-I-T-O.
Hey man, tongue.
A lying tongue. Now there's going to be a difference between a lying tongue and another type of liar. But there's people who believe this is a survival skill. Right? They lie a lot because they and let me tell you one of the worst things that can happen in your life. If you do something wrong and achieve a goal when you do that wrong thing, sometimes you revert back to that same behavior, right? Because you think that you can always achieve that goal. That's why people like to steal a lot, because they were successful doing it. So now they think, wow, this is a practice that I can do. If you find that you gain something out of lying, then oftentimes you will find yourself lying again to achieve goals. It becomes a skill, and you start to perfect the skill. Your lies start to get better. That's why you have to be careful of how you adapt evil to your life. Now that sounds weird. You shouldn't adapt evil at all to your life. We fall once and again. That's what happens. But you have to be careful because you can be addicted to a practice. How do you think the prostitute mind works? She did it once and she broke the ice. The money came. But now it's something that she does now because it's not a problem with her anymore. She become used to it. And then you can't even tell her that she's wrong. Because, you know, in our society, we think that profit is better than morals. You can't tell her that she's wrong. But be careful, because there's people that believe that. And listen, there's a lot of people that need to save their face, save their pride, and they have to lie to do it. Because the truth will destroy you. Tamshi. Oh, I had one, the hand that shed innocent blood. We used to say violent hands. Right? I got to simplify that. Red hand. Now, y'all remember New Jack City, right?
Yeah.
He had the boy and he said, yeah, he shorted, he burnt somebody for shorting him $5. You know that there's men that do things that you may consider violent because it's necessary. I don't consider like judgment, I don't consider judgment violent, right? When the Saudi Arabians be cutting off heads of pedophiles, I don't consider that violence, I consider that justice, right? But us who, I got into an argument with you, and you talking about you gonna see me. That's violence, right? There's no legitimate reason why you wanna, and it's not the thing of I fear you or anything like that, but you know, if you're gonna step to me because your pride got hurt, then there's something wrong with you. And in our culture, in our streets, you have to remember something. You gotta remember there was a time where if you stepped on somebody's shoes, they would shoot you. That's just a testament of how far we got away from God.
Right. Okay.
Small things.
Right.
Because it's more to do with pride than anything else. Has nothing to do with the actual violation of God's law or principle or anything like that. It's all pride. Shorted Nino $5, Nino had to kill him and burn him. Because of reputation. Tamshi.
Verse 18. A heart that deviseth wicked thoughts, feet that are swift and run into evil, a false witness that breatheth out lies.
So stop right there. You have the wicked thoughts. I'm going to just put swift feet. And we have the false witness that breathes out lies. Now, the connection between the lying tongue and the false witness. The false witness, to one extent, the false witness that breathes out lies, that means these are the people that are usually vowing or testifying to cause somebody else hurt. Because when you're a witness to something, usually they ask you, you go to stand, you be like, promise to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. And they say, I do. And the false witness, they sound believable. Now, just because something is believable, don't mean it's the truth. There's people right now, they get up on the Mizbeach, they get up on the pulpit, they get everywhere, they politicians and they talk hard, with conviction and strength, and this, and they lying. So what we have to learn is to be able to pick apart words. I learned how to be able to be detailed in learning what people say, not how they say it. Because we get into the illusion of the fact that a person may be fiery when they talk, so therefore they gotta be telling the truth. That don't mean nothing. Listen to what they're saying to you. Pay attention to what they're saying to you. We talked about something last time, effective listening. So when you start to listen to what they say, I can like the fiery speech, I can be riveted by what you say, and know that you can be an inspirational talker, but you're not telling the truth. Let me tell you something. A whole bunch of Jews got killed because Hitler was a great spokesman. And you know what Hitler said? He said, I know that race is not even real. He said, I'm an intelligent man. I know that race is not real, but I'm a politician, and that suits my purpose. So please, just because somebody talks it, don't mean that they live it. Just because they sound believable, don't mean that they're telling the truth. Tumshi.
And he that sows discord among his brethren.
So, twice. 14 talked about forwardness is in his heart. He devises evil continually. He soweth discord. 19 says, a false witness that breatheth out lies, and he that soweth discord amongst his brethren. Why does God hate the person that sows discord? It's a rhetorical question. It breaks up unity. But what discord does, it destroys things much greater than even the intention that the person actually had. The ripple effect of confusion and discord goes far beyond the scope of what the evil that you do. It's like when a person steals. If I steal $5,000 from your house, I just took the $5,000 for what my selfish purposes was, but I took your money. I don't know that was the last time you was going to eat. I don't know if that was your rent money and now you're going to be evicted and be outside of the house. I don't know if you being outside causes people to rob you and hurt you. I don't know the ripple effects of those things. I just stole. So when you sow discord, you know, you go through breakups and stuff like that, there are things that happen to children that in the breakup, you may feel that you have to do what you have to do. I got it. But there's things that happen to the children mentally, right, that you don't consider when you decide to do things that satisfy you. So oftentimes when you have this thing of discord being sown, there's an assumption that, you know, I'm going to get mine off, and that after I finish, everything's going to be all right. The ripple effect that you produce after, it can be, you know, it can be severe as people, they may not want to even be around certain people anymore. Because that's the devastation that they experience. It's the trauma that they experience when discord gets sown. The lack of trust. There's people that got major trust issues now because of discord. There's people that, listen, I don't want to be a part of certain things no more because of discord. They don't want to have conversations with people because of discord. The stuff that I would confide in you about, I don't know if I can confide in you about again because of discord. And discord is not good in any way, shape, or form. But you have to be careful, because oftentimes the people that sow the discord, they will try to attempt to be the repairers of the breach. And usually, you know, you can't be one and the other at the same time. So even your apologetic repair is an illusion. It's fake. It's not real. And I want to get into something. This is the sandbox. I want y'all to understand something about the sandbox theory. Who's at the sandbox? Who's usually at the sandbox? Children. Children. What are they doing in the sandbox? They playing. But sandbox you have, it's like when you're young. You know, at that age, they ain't in the sandbox no more. But what type of things do you learn in the sandbox? You learn friendship, period. Because usually you're not in the sandbox by yourself. Usually that behavior is your primal behavior of how you begin to cooperate with other people. Some of us never learn how to play good in the sandbox. Right. I'm going to give you an example. There's an article you can look it up. This person is called Sandbox Psychology, right? And this article is so relevant to the way we treat each other right now. Guy, he's a psychologist. He has a 3-year-old son. He's in San Diego. Takes his son to a park or somewhere in the beach every Sunday. There's a train thing going on, whatever the case may be, but there's a lot of stuff going on. He likes to have this bonding time with his son. So he goes and takes his son, and his son has his toys, right? And he says the son usually goes, and when he goes into the sandbox, he has his own toys, and he usually picks up a particular corner, and he does his regular routine when he's in the sandbox. And he says as he goes inside the sandbox, he observes, like, he's a father usually. Mostly, there's mothers that go to the sandbox. They're at the sandbox. So that's who else is at the sandbox? Parents, right? Pay attention to the parents. So there were kids, mothers that would have their kids play in the sandbox, and they would provide the toys for their kids in the sandbox. And there were mothers that would have the kids in the the sandbox, and they don't provide kids the toys, right? And this is the whole expectation that some people come and they expect that cooperation to happen and that the kids start to share, and they play with the trucks and whatever, and they play with the sand together, whatever. And there was a group of mothers he observed that began to have this conversation and say, well, I'm tired of mothers bringing their kids in the sandbox without their toys, right? Without their toys, and they need to be providing their own children with toys. And we shouldn't be there, and they shouldn't be playing with our kids' toys. So they began to use that as their in-group. When you have an in-group, what he said is you automatically have an out-group. So now, in our society, our in-groups is usually like things like white racists, exclusive clubs, but you got these in-groups that the aim is not to satisfy any solution whatsoever. It's to feel more important than another group of people that are doing the same thing that you're doing. So now as you're going inside the sandbox, this is what happens. These are the reasons why the Korahs and the Dathans and the Abiram had to be destroyed in our society, because they wanted to create their own in-group. They go in there and they started to say, as that happened, they started to antagonize those people who brought the kids without the toys. And they started to take the children out and take the toys away from the kids that were just, and the kids are interacting. The kids don't know this stuff. The kids don't know this hostility. They don't know this classism that is trying to be formed. The kids are just being kids. Kids willingly share their stuff, because that's how kids are. The evil that they get didn't come from them. It came from the parents. So now the parents are starting to teach lessons of exclusivity, elitism, and hate. This is the conversation that the guy observed. He said, the three mothers started to have this conversation. They started to get into a little heated debate with the mother that had the child that didn't have the toys. And the mother said, well, why don't you let them play? Like, they've been playing like this. Like, it's no big thing. Like, then they go, well, why don't you go to the 99-cent store and buy your kids some toys, right? So automatically they established an in-group and an out-group. And he said it started to get real heated. They started to get into like a verbal argument. He said at that point of discord, he had to pick his son up, right? And he said, so that his son don't get all messed up in the head about what he saw, he had to give his son some strawberry ice cream or something like that. So, like, to pacify the situation that just happened. He said, so I went, I just picked it, because after they started fighting, he had to get his son, like I ain't standing, my son ain't going to be exposed to this. But the sandbox is very good for us if we learn how to operate the sandbox. But when we get control, and I'm not saying that maybe the parents had intentions about what they did, but you understand that they already created an atmosphere of discord, right? Because of There's no reason. And this is not because a child stole anything, somebody got hit. They just decided that they were tired of other mothers coming and playing with their kids' toys. Now, they probably didn't learn how to play good in the sandbox. But part of the sandbox is, this is your initial learning on how to cooperate with other people. And I clearly understand that there's people, they love positions, they love power, they love a lot of things, but they don't know how to play well in the sandbox. They never did. Nobody ever taught them when they were young that it's okay to share. Nobody ever taught them when they was young is, you don't say that. You don't hurt people's feelings like that. You don't do those type of things. You know, some of us got siblings, right? Some of us have siblings that we didn't grow up with. Some of us have siblings we did grow up with. You know, it breaks a mother's heart when the siblings fight, right? Because that's her offspring, and they're at odds. And, you know, the stuff that siblings fight over, it'd be stupid stuff. It'd be like, you know, it'd be the last piece of chicken, it'd be potato chips, it'd be the TV remote control, it'd be stupid stuff, right? And I understand what you're saying about principle, but the essence of it is stupid. Right? The principle of it is you don't want to be walked on, you don't want to be taken advantage of. This is the reason why you're fighting. Right. And that's part of what the learning behavior we talked about is respect. But sometimes, you know, we think that the fight is more important than the solution. What's great about siblings is that when they get older, they understand the folly that they experienced in the past. Right? Like the stuff that I remember I used to fight with my sister about. My sister used to handle me until I was 13. That's when I started getting my man meat, fighting skills up, whatever the case may be. But she used to handle me until I was 13 years old. But the stuff we would just fight about is just, you know, we just fight. Fight about anything. And just set it off. But now when you're older, you look at those things as, that was futile. But you remember, I think it's okay to have these conflicts as children, but when you become an adult, that is a severe problem. So I have to question those things that we find ourselves getting mad over. Those things that we find ourselves dividing ourselves over. There's oftentimes issues where, you know, we focus more on the fight itself than trying to find a solution. And if we actually look to find a solution to problems, sometimes the solution to the problem is maybe you need to shut up and sit down. Maybe the solution to the problem is maybe we do need to have a meeting. But to focus on a solution and not pride, it seems to be very difficult for us in this day and time. So the emphasis that is being made on those that sow discord is that there are individuals that have this character trait, and the next thing is, what are we going to do about it? Because oftentimes we find ourselves more afraid of individuals and not understanding that the harm that they do was more devastating and will hurt us down the line. If we put them in check now, we'll be okay. We let them run amok, then they're liable to do anything. Like I said last time, there's people that will come around you and then try to impose their will on you. Different ways they do it. So I want us to keep those things in mind. I want us to understand that, you know, relationships that you develop at an early age, when you understand how to have right relationships, when you understand those principles that we talked about, respect, care, cooperation, kindness, Keep those things with you. Those things are not soft things. Those are essential components for you to have a good life so that you can get along with people. You know what I find funny? Dr. Joy Levy talked about, she said there were two white men that worked at the same job, sat across from each other, but they couldn't stand each other. Hate each other's guts. But for the sake of their job, came to work every day on time, tolerated everything that that person had to give because they didn't jeopardize their livelihood. And we don't think that our togetherness and cooperation is just as important. When we don't get along, because we go to work, we don't choose the people we work with most of the times. We don't make the final hiring decision. Sometimes you have a say, but you go to work all the time. You go to work that people that don't praise your God, don't share your standards of morality. They may be just totally different people, but you learn to cooperate with them nonetheless. Why? Because it's your job, it's your livelihood. So the building of our nation is just as important. So our cooperation with one another has to be just as valid, just as important. Tamshi.
Verse 20. My son, keep the commandment of thy father, and forsake not the teaching of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thy heart, tie them about thy neck. When thou walkest, it shall lead thee. When thou liest down, it shall watch over thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandment is a lamp, and the teaching is light. And reproofs of instruction are the way of life, to keep thee from the evil woman, from the smoothness of the alien tongue.
We already talked about her in 7, Tamshi.
Lust not after her beauty in thy heart, not to let her captivate thee with her eyelids. For on account of a harlot a man is brought to a loaf of bread, but the adulteress hunteth for the precious life. Can a man take fire in his bosom, and his clothes not be burned? Or can one walk upon hot coals, and his feet not be scorched? So he that goeth into his neighbor's wife, whosoever toucheth her shall not go unpunished. Men do not despise a thief if he steal, to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he must restore sevenfold.
So it's comparing the adulterer to the thief. And that's true. If a man steals because he's hungry, he doesn't get looked at as a person that's twisted. But regardless of what, he still has to pay. Tamshi.
He must give all the substance of his house. He that committeth adultery with the woman lacketh understanding. He doeth it that would destroy his own soul.
Amen.
Wounds and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. For jealousy is the rage of a man, and he will not spare in the day of vengeance. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content, though thou givest many gifts. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Well, yeah, before I step down, I just want to give the congregation a chance to add to the list that we had before. So if you can provide right now any, and even online, any of the positive interactive behaviors that weren't mentioned before. Self-esteem. So what you're saying, don't think I'm going to spare you because you're young. What you're saying is that it's good to give other people self-esteem. Okay. What about your own self-esteem?
It's good to have self-esteem.
Excellent. But is it good for people to help others have self-esteem? Okay. What I put under your self-esteem was the preservation of dignity. because I think what happens with us is our community, we very big on insulting one another, right? We like to step on each other's dignity to boost up our self-esteem. So in anything that happens, even God said about the man that gets 40 stripes, said don't go beyond 40 stripes, because that's when you start to step on his pride, his manhood, whatever. So preservation of dignity is very important. Anything else? Compassion. Did we put that down? No, we put kindness, but I can put compassion. Anything else? And remember, it's stuff that we want to do to interact and stuff that we're not going to be doing to interact with each other. Right? It could be the reverse, like the reverse. Negative attitudes we talked about. We talked about disrespect, aggression and violence, immaturity, poor and offensive hygiene, offensive yelling and screaming and cursing at one another.
Online, they said positive interaction.
You said collaboration, right? We have cooperation, we have collaboration. Positive interaction?
Online, yeah, consideration and humility.
We didn't put consideration down?
Patience.
We have patience. We had that from last time. We have
Empowerment and encouragement.
empowerment.
And encouragement.
Before I move on, is there anybody in this room that think that any of these things you cannot do? Because before we like try to impose, like everybody saying something, because there's some people say, yo, I got a problem with preserving people's dignity. Can't do it. You know, I like cursing people out. Can't do it. But is there anything that you feel like I can't practice humility? That's not me. Because I'm gonna be honest with you. I think some people can't do it. They just because they don't practice it enough, right? Not it's impossible, but you know, humility takes a lot. You know, especially from some of us New Yorkers, it's like a lot, right? We have respect. You said respect, understanding. So y'all saying that y'all can do all of this stuff? No, because y'all not saying that. Who said we could try? That's the right answer. I think we all work in progress. I think we gotta all try to be the best that we can be in these things. Anything else?
Collective responsibility.
Collective responsibility. So we got this. So, who said teamwork? You know teamwork makes the dream work, right? Collective. Teamwork. Sharing is what? Sharing is caring, brother. Sharing.
Shalom body.
You gotta repeat that and you gotta explain it.
Shalom body is like to have peace in your home and like the temple and anywhere where you are.
Cool. And I understand the concept. So let's play with that a little bit. Shalom bayit. So it's an encompassing peace, right? You're in your home, you got peace in your home. You can't give people what you don't have, so if you come to the Knesset, you can share some of the peace that you have because you have peace in your house, right? Then you can go to school and you can share some of that peace that God has given you to with your classmates. And you see You don't have a husband yet. You see a husband, you know what I'm saying? You be like, I got peace. I can give you some of this peace. And that's how things work, right?
But also you should make sure you have some peace for yourself too.
Right. So even in your house,
Give, and then you don't have any.
you don't have any more? You can't give it all out. Okay. I'm going to buy your book when it comes out. Friendly.
Right, you want a friend, you gotta be a friend, right?
Love.
We didn't put love on him?
No.
You serious? You know, I just found that funny, like, you know, it's so basic, right? But, but I would say that part of what we're trying to do is define what we consider what love is, right? Because, yeah, I'm about to do myself in, right? That we define what love is because sometimes people, they have their personal understanding of what love is, and this is going to be our shared experience. It's going to be what we consider love, and here's these attributes. I didn't put friendly down?
Oh, you put it in the parentheses. That's, look, it's over there.
Oh. So you want a lonely, a friendly by itself, a strong friendly?
Like, take it out the
I got you.
parentheses, so you know it's not optional.
And Shalom Bayah.
No, I gotta put Shalom Bayah in the end of parentheses because it's the first time I heard that concept, and it's yours. All right? Stick with it and make it grow. All right. Young man. Ooh, forgiveness, man. That's a good one, man. Okay, let me get two more and I can wrap up. Forgot? There's nothing wrong with forgetting. That's it? Oh, I put love up small. It's small. Let me make love bigger.
We have something from the section over here. Sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Got one last one over here.
No, remember yours. Remember yours. And if you don't do it now, just give it to me later. Obedience? I'm going to put that in parentheses. And I think the bigger issue is our collective obedience to God and our respect for one another. Not that it's not important to listen to what other people say, but you know, we're not oppressors here. We're not trying to make you do anything, but we're trying to get a common understanding that these are all of the things that we're responsible to do. All right? But thank you very much. Nice, man. I love them.
That's it.
You know why reciprocity resonates so well with me and all that stuff like that? Because in essence, this doesn't work without it. Nothing that we do works without reciprocity. And that's part of our problem. We believe that we have a standard of life where I can do what I want to you, but you can treat me in a different way.
And that's why those mothers at the sandbox
Right.
are how they felt. Because you say that they should have shared, but what happened to the reciprocity? When was the other mothers going to bring those toys?
I'm not saying they should have shared. What I'm saying is the approach, right? That's all it was about, because regardless of what, they could have brought other people in and had a general understanding, and that wasn't really the point. So, y'all are the last two, okay?
Okay. You can rejuvenate
Wow. So you want me to put spa day or just rejuvenate? Rejuvenate. When we gonna have our spa day, brother? When we gonna have our spa day? Men need they massaged and yeah, feet rubbed and stuff too. It may not be the same. Yes. Makkah.
Yeah, some people need a makkah.
That's some negative side? I would say this would have been the last one. I would say justice. Oh, I know what makkah means. You know what makkah means? I'm not gonna put makkah, I'm gonna put justice. All right, brothers and sisters. This list look full. I'll type another one up and hang it up. So we got some good ones today. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Now remember, this is what y'all said, right? It's not me. Ain't Chief Prince. It's what the people said. It's what the people said. It's what you think that this is the best way that we need to interact with one another. Even though most of it came from the youth today, still a blessing. Hallelujah.